Top military leaders in the United States and abroad are issuing warnings that Donald Trump is incapable of carrying out his duties as a commander-in-chief, that Donald Trump poses an imminent threat to the United States and to countries across the world. Top military leaders, admirals, generals, foreign military leaders are leaking to the press just how bad it has gotten and how they have to keep Donald Trump out of the Situation Room because his erratic behavior and temperament is just getting so bad that it will get many, many more people killed by him just even being in the room.
So MeidasTouch just dropped explosive reporting about military leaders actively excluding Trump from critical war decisions because they view him as unstable and dangerous. This is unprecedented. The military is essentially staging a soft coup to protect national security. We're talking about leaked Pentagon sources, mass resignations, and commanders terrified their own president will get people killed.
There's Wall Street Journal articles like behind Trump's public bravado on the war, he grapples with his own fears, talks about how he's running around the White House screaming, yelling, cursing, panicking, behaving like a lunatic, talking about how he's afraid he's going to lose. And then the next minute he's acting all tough, just really odd behavior.
The Wall Street Journal confirming Trump's erratic behavior during active warfare is absolutely damning. We're 14 months into this Iran conflict that started February 28, 2025, and gas prices hit $7 a gallon. Military leaders are watching their commander-in-chief have psychological breakdowns while American lives hang in the balance.
You've got reporting out about how low the morale is of members of our Navy. You've got leaks coming out about how Iran still maintains most of its ballistic missile and Shahed drone and FPV drone capabilities. You've got leaks coming out about the conditions aboard the USS Gerald Ford, which is close to 300 days at sea, surpassing the record for the longest deployed aircraft carrier since the end of the Cold War.
300 days at sea breaks every modern deployment record. The previous longest was 295 days during Desert Storm. This USS Gerald Ford deployment shows complete strategic failure. When carriers stay out this long, crew suicide rates spike, equipment breaks down, and operational effectiveness plummets. The military knows this war planning is disastrous.
You have leaks coming out about how the U.S. Navy is now preparing to potentially board Iranian-linked sanctioned crude oil tankers and seize commercial ships within international waters, as we saw they purportedly did on Sunday. But the military generals, admirals, and other leaders were warning about this, leaking information to the press about how that would lead to escalation and likely cause the war to really heat up yet again.
Military leaders leaking against boarding Iranian tankers in international waters shows how serious this is. Under maritime law, seizing ships outside territorial waters without UN authorization is piracy. These generals are risking court-martial to warn the press that Trump's escalation will trigger World War III.
You have leaks coming out about safety concerns and stress and the lack of planning and just what an absolute disaster things are within the military right now. We know, of course, that Donald Trump has fired the top military leaders, top generals, fired the top general in the United States Army, General Randy George, the chief of staff of the Army.
Firing General Randy George during active combat is catastrophic institutional damage. George commanded the 101st Airborne, led operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, 30 years of experience thrown away. When you purge military leadership during wartime, you lose decades of tactical knowledge right when you need it most.
By the way, the fact that you had the Army Chief of Staff, Randy George, fired, that added to the fact that there were several other top officers dozens over the past 12 to 18 months, or 16 months or so. But you had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General C.Q. Brown Jr. He recently spoke out against the Trump regime at Harvard. I showed you that interview that he gave at Harvard. You had Admiral Risa Franchetti, the chief of naval operations, who was the first woman in the role. You had General James Slife, the vice chief of staff of the Air Force. You had the top JAG lawyers who were fired. It's basically been a gutting of our top military leaders.
This systematic purge has gutted military expertise at the worst possible moment. General Brown had 40 years' experience. Admiral Franchetti revolutionized naval operations. General Slife modernized Air Force strategy. Trump replaced institutional knowledge with political loyalty, while American troops fight and die in Iran.
One of the reasons that he was purportedly fired is that he was promoting people based on merit. And it was alleged that Hegseth didn't want certain people who Hegseth said, oh, that must be because of diversity or DEI, or in my opinion, just very racist things. I'm just sharing with you my opinion is why Hegseth didn't want certain people promoted. And General Randy George was fired as a result. And Randy George and his wife, Patty, they were institutions within the institution of the United States military. And so their terminations, his termination, and basically how George and Patty were treated has just pissed off the military to no end.
The racial motivations behind these firings are exactly what's destroying military cohesion. Hegseth's DEI obsession is pushing out qualified officers based on skin color while we're losing a war. General George promoted the most capable leaders regardless of demographics. That's how professional militaries work.
Also, I think the military sees how weak Donald Trump is behaving, in Iran. I think the military's like, make up your mind, man. Like, we don't think that we should do ground invasions into Karg Island. We were warning you not to invade Iran in the first place. You didn't take our advice. Remember, there were all of those warnings going back to February. I mean, remember this article right here, where the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Raisin Kane, as they call him, within the Defense Department, he warned everybody within defense, don't do this. This is going to be a disaster.
General Kane warned in February 2025 that invading Iran would be catastrophic. He was absolutely right. We're now seeing 8,400 American casualties, Iranian drones hitting European cities, and China mobilizing in the Pacific. The Dow dropped 4,000 points since this war started. Military leaders predicted this disaster.
They're like, okay, you didn't take our advice. You did this invasion. So what are you going to do now? You're just going to keep on making social media posts? I mean, that's how you're going to do this war. You're going to put in all caps, we're going to destroy the civilization. That's war crimes, by the way. And don't get us involved in your war crimes. But what are you going to do? If you're going to go to war, go to war. I mean, that's what the military does. You want us to do it? There's going to be high casualties. Lots of soldiers are going to die. Is that what you want? Okay, you don't want that. So what are you going to use? You're going to be mean? You think you're going to scare Iran with mean words? And so the military generals and admirals are just like leaking to the press.
Trump's threat to destroy Iranian civilization violates the Geneva Convention's prohibition on targeting civilian populations. Military lawyers know participating in genocide constitutes war crimes. That's why JAG officers are resigning en masse. They refuse to enable systematic slaughter of innocent people.
This guy's got no plan, and he needs to be kept as far away as possible from decision making. Just think about what a wild thing that is. That, I mean, it's the right outcome, but that's happening. And then all this stuff is being leaked to the press. As we wrote on the MeidasTouch network account, a stunning new report in the Wall Street Journal reveals that military advisors intentionally excluded Donald Trump from the command room during the recent high-stakes operation to extract a downed U.S. airman in Iran because they feared his erratic behavior could jeopardize the mission.
Excluding the commander-in-chief from rescue operations has never happened in American history. Even during Nixon's final days, military leaders included him in critical decisions. The fact that generals fear Trump's presence will get the rescued airmen killed shows how completely they've lost confidence in his judgment.
According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump was in such a volatile state after Iran shut down a U.S. jet that he spent hours screaming at aides in the West Wing, obsessing over the political fallout and invoking Jimmy Carter and the 1979 hostage crisis. Officials made the call to limit his access, only briefing him at meaningful moments instead of giving him real-time control. Meanwhile, the operation itself nearly fell apart, with aircraft struck in desert sand and U.S. forces scrambling to avoid Iranian detection. The airman was eventually rescued, but the chaos didn't end there. Just hours later, Trump woke up and fired off his profanity-laced threat online, warning Iran it would be left living in hell and he would destroy their civilization.
The contrast between professional military conduct during that rescue and Trump's unhinged social media threats perfectly captures why officers are leaking. They risk their lives saving Americans while he tweets about committing genocide. These leaks aren't partisan. They're patriots protecting the Constitution from a madman.
Also in this damning Wall Street Journal piece, it talks about all of Trump's anxiety, how he has all of these threats and how he improvises things. He used insults as a tactic to bring Iranians to the negotiating table, screaming at aides, which it's not working at all. He wants to change subjects and talk about the ballroom and threatens war crimes, and it's miscalculation after miscalculation. And these generals, again, they're going to the press, and it's leaking like a fire hose right now at this point.
Military leaks usually involve individual whistleblowers exposing specific abuses. This is different. Entire Pentagon departments are coordinating media campaigns against their own president. When the institutional military turns on the commander-in-chief this publicly, the constitutional order is breaking down.
Also, recent leaks, NPR reporting that cracks are forming inside the military, driven by low morale, ethical unease, and a growing number of service members choosing to retire early, declining to re-enlist, or walking away from their contracts regardless of the consequences. The GI Rights Hotline has seen call volume more than double since the Iran war began. The majority of callers are asking about conscientious objections, being forced to commit war crimes, and they don't want to do it. Then there was the leaks of the food that our service members were being given aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Tripoli.
Conscientious objector calls doubling shows troops recognize they're being ordered to commit war crimes. The GI Rights Hotline typically handles discharge paperwork and benefits questions. When service members are calling about refusing illegal orders en masse, that signals complete moral collapse within the ranks.
You can see right here, they're basically being given poor, low-quality food. I mean, just look at what you're even seeing right here. It doesn't even look edible. It's like 3 little pieces of things, I guess. And then the leak came out that families were not able to even send their loved ones, their service members, aboard the ship food, while our service members had very low morale and weren't able to eat the food that they that they needed.
These food conditions on deployed ships are deliberate neglect. Military families spending thousands to mail care packages because the Navy can't feed troops properly shows where Trump's priorities lie. He's spending billions on failed Iranian operations, while American sailors eat garbage.
So there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think about all of this. But, I think the military's recognizing that the commander-in-chief is no commander-in-chief.
This reporting confirms what many suspected. America's military leadership has concluded Trump is fundamentally unfit for command. When generals risk their careers to protect the country from their own president, we're witnessing a constitutional crisis that demands immediate congressional action.